What up, witches? I just got finished watching episode 3 of Agatha All Along, through many miles of tricks and trials, and it was absolutely fantastic. We start out the episode on the Witch's Road. Sharon, Mrs. Hart, Kitty Foreman is accusing them of kidnapping her, and everybody's starting to bicker, and all of a sudden they realize that they have to go through a trial, each one of them, for their specialty, so to speak. This trial will also make them face their worst fears. Teen tries to talk about himself, and they see the sigil. Now, Teen doesn't know he has the sigil. I understand that he can't see. But he doesn't even know what a sigil is. Lilia has to explain that to him. And then, also, it's only apparent to witch folk. They come across this absolutely beautiful beach house. And as soon as they walk in, they're all cleaned up. They look absolutely gorgeous. And the house is immaculate. It looks like it should be on an HGTV show. They're casing the joint, and all of a sudden, Mrs. Hart screams, "Oh my God!" And she runs in, and they run to her, and she goes, "Bury me in that kitchen." Be careful what you wish for, Mrs. Hart. Well, they have to solve this riddle, and Mrs. Hart comes in clutch and realizes that the riddle was about wine. Well, she saw wine, so they all knew they had to drink it. She loves the kitchen, and she grabs the bottle of the wine and chugs the first glass, and then looks at all of them and says, "Don't judge me. I've had a rough day." Kitty Foreman-esque, anyone? But before that, Jennifer and Teen had to go get the corkscrew to open the bottle. And she warns him about Agatha, not to trust him. And he goes, "No, I know all about her." She brings up how she traded her child for the Darkhold. And he looks shocked, and he didn't believe it. And then she says to him, "Yeah, no one knows what happened to her son. He could be dead. He could be a demon. He could be an agent of Mephisto." What? An agent of who? Mephisto? What? Say that again? Eek! Back to reality. Anyway, she tells him that Agatha wouldn't even recognize her son if he showed up on her doorstep. They go over to sit on the couch, and Teen is sitting next to Jennifer, who compliments how cute his hair looks in this style, and I can't say I argue with her. So anyway, he notices her tattoo, and she says that she got it when she was on tour with her mother, and that it wards away curses. He asks her how old she was when she got it. She said 13. And he said, "A lot of things happened to me when I was 13 too." So now, everybody takes the poison except Agatha. She throws it in the plant and puts it on the shelf because she knows better. She's been down the road before. She knows that it's probably poison, but she doesn't want to say anything to anybody else. She figures, let them take it. And when they realize they're pressuring her to drink it because they have to do it all or else they're never going to make it out of the house. And Teen says he'll drink the wine, and he went to grab it, and she said no. And she took it out of his hand, and she drank it. So Jennifer, our potion witch, came in clutch, and she figured out what type it was, and she said, you would have the face swelling, the swelling went away, and then you would have heart palpitations and hallucinations and lose motor skills, and then finally, since Mrs. Hart downed not one, but 2 glasses, because even after it was poisonous, she still needed that second glass of wine, she starts seeing her hallucination first. And to be honest, it was quite heartbreaking. She screams actually, "Wanda, Wanda, I'm begging you, please, let him breathe." Obviously, she's talking about her husband, her late husband, and what she's referring to is back in WandaVision, when I think it was episode 1 in the I Love Lucy / Bewitch episode, when her and her husband went to visit Wanda and Vision. And Wanda starts suffocating her husband, and she didn't say those words, but this was what was going on in her head, and it was utterly heartbreaking. Even Agatha looked at her with a look of pity, because she understands what it's like to have been under that curse and to not have any control. And for 1 second, she was humanized, and she felt bad for Mrs. Hart. And she felt bad for bringing her here. Okay, now the rest of the hallucinations. We'll start with Alice. Alice hallucinates that her mother is in her dressing room, and she's excited. She says, "Mommy, is it really you?" She tells her grandmother died, and that they're now coming for her, and there's nothing she can do to help it. And she's getting paranoid, and she said that they're going to kill her. So she takes poison, and she screams at poor Alice, "I can't protect you!" And her hallucination ends. We then go to Lilia, who sees some creepy girl dressed in an old-time dress, and she asks her, "Do you want to see?" So obviously Lily follows her. And she goes into this dining hall where a very, very old woman is sitting at the table in very old-timey clothes. And I'm not sure if she's dead or an animated corpse, but I'm just going to go with that. And then from the background, there comes a skeletal face in a veil and a dress. Then we go to Jen. Jen sees a man who she obviously recognized, who tells her that she's an inconvenience, and then he tries to drown her in the kitchen sink. Lastly, Agatha hears a baby crying, and she walks and she sees a cradle, and she goes to uncover the baby, and it's the Darkhold. After Agatha gives Jennifer a pep talk, yeah, you heard me, she gave someone a pep talk. Jennifer pulls it together, and she makes sure that she gets the spell right, and they all drink the antidote. Well, with 0 seconds left on the clock, they realize they have to give the antidote to poor Mrs. Hart. So they run it over and they throw it down her throat because she's still passed out. At that exact moment, the water starts crashing in because they had noticed before that they were underwater. So at that exact moment, the oven opens. It was a very chaotic moment. And they realize they have to go through the oven. Well, Lily is like, "I'm not doing this." Jennifer's like, "Peace out," and just jumps in first. And then Lilia goes in after her because she's like, "Well, I'm not going to drown here because the water's now rising." They now have to take Mrs. Hart because she's unconscious. Alice and Teen go to help her, and Alice is like, "Come on, Agatha, help me." And she's like, "No, leave her here." Teen goes, "We'll never make it past this trial if all of us don't make it out." So Agatha grabs Mrs. Hart, and they all run and they jump in the oven, and which leads down to a slide. Ta-da! They're all back on the witch's road. And they start bickering. Jennifer says that Agatha was going to double-cross them. They start bickering. And Lilia says, "We all made it out alive." And Teen says, "No, we didn't. Mrs. Hart is dead. R.I.P. Sharon, Mrs. Hart, Kitty Foreman, whatever your name is. May you rest in an eternal paradise in a beautiful kitchen with lots of wine." This episode left me with a lot of questions. Here we go. Are you ready? Buckle up. There's a bunch of them. See if you have the same questions I do. If Teen can break the curse cast by the Scarlet Witch, speaking Latin nonetheless, how does he not know what a sigil is that Lilia had to explain it to him? Again, Teen, how does he know an egregious amount about Agatha and study up all about her and not know that she had a son? Speaking of this son, are we going to just brush over Mephisto, or are we actually going to go into it? Is he going to make an appearance, or was it just fan service? Alice says the women in her family are cursed. Why are the women in Alice's family cursed? Who was the guy who tried to drown Jennifer? When Agatha and Lilia go to get an ingredient for the potion, Lilia actually has a flash. And what she says is, "Try to save Agatha." What does that mean? Speaking of Agatha, why does she listen to Teen? When he tells her to drink the wine, she drinks it. She drinks it out of protection of him. But he tells her to help with Mrs. Hart, and she does. She listens to him. Why? Well, that's my recap / commentary / reactions / questions for episode 3 of Agatha All Along. As always, if you like the video, hit like. If you want to comment, if you want to talk about something, agree, disagree, or have something to add, or can answer my questions, please comment. And as always, follow me for more Agatha All Along content. Later, witches.